Hey guys, Marcus Henry here with cryptosauce. Roy is with Solarwind Token.
Yes, sir.
And he is revolutionizing the way that people are getting solar, investing in solar. So, Roy, just if you want to start out, tell me a bit about yourself. Who is the man behind the coin?
So, I am Roy Soa. I'm born and raised in Oklahoma. So I'll say probably about 5 years ago, I was a student at Oklahoma State. Graduated there and started working for Koch Industries. It's an engineering, like engineering firm, very very big. But worked there for about 2 years, and during that time, I started coming up with my business plan to create my own solar company. I've always been interested in solar since college because I created like a snow cone stand where it was ran solely off solar. So I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. That I can like run all my equipment and everything based off of sun power. So ever since then, I just kind of started working slowly to create this plan to eventually launch my own company. And then eventually I left Koch Industries and started my own solar company.
Wow. So, a snow cone stand that was running entirely solar. So, you've essentially gone from a snow cone stand to a cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
What has that kind of talk over what that kind of transition looked like? How does a guy from Oklahoma who's doing solar end up in crypto?
I don't know. So prior to venturing off into crypto, I never really had much crypto experience except for maybe buying like $50 with a Bitcoin or so. It wasn't until this year that I actually started getting invested into more and more cryptos. It started with SafeMoon, the big SafeMoon boom, and then just realizing, well, this is pretty cool. Like cryptocurrency can just take off in an instant, but at the same time could also tank very quickly. But just seeing all these different use cases from charity tokens to tokens for your favorite cartoon or whatever, I didn't realize that you could do so much with a token. So seeing SafeMoon's success, I kind of initially wanted to reach out to them and see if maybe there's a way they can help solve this financing issue. But then I thought about it more, and I figured, well, why not venture off into making a token that I can control and have a vision for exactly how I want it to operate. So since then, just outsourced the work to get the job done, created a team. Here with me I have Sir Archie and Taki. They're great members on my team.
There.
And then we have other members as well that are working hard to get this thing going to where it needs to be.
Tell us a bit about the token.
All right. So essentially, Solarwind Token was created because of one of the issues in the solar industry, which is financing. Every time I would send out a quote, essentially, I would say probably 85% of the jobs I tried to close would not close, only because the customer either couldn't find financing or they didn't have the cash to drop on a significant down payment or even pay off the full thing. So that's kind of where the idea of Solarwind Token came from.
Great. And so what do you kind of see the coin doing to solve for that?
So what we're doing is we're creating a D application, which would allow us to partner up with different solar installers around the world. They'll create their own wallet address, and then from there, we're creating a liquidity pool, like a project fund wallet, based off of our tokenomics. 2.5% of every transaction goes towards this wallet, which would create enough liquidity to fund or finance these projects. Once we find like a qualified customer, then we'll deploy the funds to the installer, and then after they complete the projects according to their milestones, then the customer will start making their payments back through the D app directly into the liquidity pool.
The market's down right now, quite a lot, and cryptocurrency is so heavily impacted by just words. Twitter, you hear, obviously Elon Musk has a huge impact, political figures, then also news about China turning off mining for Bitcoin.
Oh yeah.
And so what do you feel is critical for Solarwind Token to kind of weather the solar storm, if you will, of the press and just right now the sentiment that really impacts the crypto industry?
So I believe, especially right now, we're kind of fortunate, and it's like an opportune time for us to really grow. We're only at 300 holders right now, so yes, we're impacted by the fluctuations of the market, but as we grow to 1,000, 10,000 holders, um, we're kind of able to push against the downward trend with significant growth. As the coin grows, we'll be, with our tokenomics, adding more back into the liquidity pool than what's being taken out. Because as we fund more solar projects, let's say there's a $10,000 solar project and we put 15,000 back into the liquidity pool, it kind of hedges against what the market will be doing at the time. And as well as we're partnering with Bitcoin miners. So as we do more and more transitions from Bitcoin miners to renewable energy, we're actually creating a pool backed with Bitcoin, and we're going to make different like reserves of liquidity pools that won't, like with stable coins, that won't be affected by the market ups and downs as much.
It's fascinating. So yeah, you are market downturn isn't really ultimately hurting you too much because you're continuing to put more into those liquidity pools, and you're also partnering with Bitcoin miners to essentially turn Bitcoin into a greener currency, so to speak. So it's a great example of how it's not necessarily a competition with Bitcoin. It's more of cryptos helping cryptos, if you will, to solve problems.
Exactly, elevating the whole market.
Very cool. Great. President Biden recently made a commitment to cut greenhouse gases by 50% in the United States by 2030. Where do you see Solarwind Token fitting in there in regards to the roadmap that the president has outlined for the United States? Do you see an opportunity there that you can capitalize on?
I see a big opportunity, not just here in the United States, but working with governments as a whole. There's so much that governments have to do to set aside funds because the money won't come from out of nowhere. So it takes a significant part of the budget to be able to finance something like that. So our main goal is to partner with the governments to become the driving factor to allow customers and clients to come to us, and we'll be the ones creating the incentives and the programs to allow people to go solar and to help accelerate the goal for these different governments to reduce the carbon footprint. And what that would do for governments is allow them to allocate a significant amount of the budget that they planned for solar incentives and to rapidly transition from fossil fuels. They can now target different aspects of issues that may be happening in that government and focus their budget more towards that to help elevate the overall country at the same time as transitioning.
What have been some of the largest challenges that you've faced getting the coin up off the ground, competing with a lot of other coins right now in this space? So what do you think are some of the bigger things that you've been facing thus far since launching Solarwind Token?
I would say probably the biggest thing is just initial startup funds and everything, because it takes a significant budget to be able to market as effectively as you want to. And we're being as cost effective as we can to mitigate just spending large amounts on stuff that won't work. So we're just kind of doing like a lot of guerrilla tactics. We're getting really into the nitty gritty, trying to just spread awareness of the token. And it seems like getting that awareness comes at a pretty significant dollar amount, especially for a new token. But our team's working hard every day just to consistently get the word out, and eventually, I believe once we get that perfect storm and that perfect recipe, and we throw a spark in it, then that'll be the fuel that we need to really get that recognition. But yeah, a lot of new tokens do a good job with it initially. we're a long-term project, so I'm not too concerned about the immediate future. There's too many times you see tokens that are driven solely on 100xing, 1000xing in the first 2 weeks, and then they leave their holders high and dry. So the holders know who we are. They know how hard we're working. We're being very transparent with how we're allocating our funds and what things we're trying to help us grow, along with trying to push them to help spread the word as well.
Now, you brought up a good point around, you are here in person. I know your first name. I know your last name. Your community knows that. Know your phone number. Yeah. I can find you. Mm-hmm. What was the decision there? A lot of tokens, especially the BEP20s right now, they all operate under anonymity. You don't know who these people are behind the scenes. And then you hear about things like the developers pulled the rug under, all their holders' feet, leaving them high and dry, just like you mentioned. So I got to imagine that in that type of market right now, where people don't know who to trust, having a name and a face and like a human being, that you can hold accountable, is critical. But what was the decision there? Was it just right out of the gate you were going to be, facing, the world? Or was there any discussion around that? Like what really led the desire to be public facing?
I would say that decision came right out of the gate. There was no hesitation on my part or anyone else's part. The full team is not fully doxed 100% yet, but the goal is to be here in the near future. But me as the CEO and the face of the company, I at least wanted people to gain trust in me, knowing, hey, this is me. I have a solar company. I'm working on this token. I would love to have you join along on the journey. It kind of just adds security to the holders and future holders, and just gives accountability to me as well. So I'm not saying I would ever do anything crazy, but let's say I was getting like the itch to do something, then I have, like right now our Telegram is up to 6,000 people. So I have 6,000 people that will come at me with pitchforks if I were to do anything like that. And that's not to say that mistakes won't happen in the future, but they're there to hold me accountable, and I'm there to reassure them that this is going to be something that I plan to stick with until we reach every single goal that we have in place.
Great. I think accountability is pretty critical nowadays. Not everybody can be Satoshi Nakamoto, and the creator of cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and even then, it took how long for Bitcoin to get to where it is now?
I believe it's
13 years.
It's been quite a while. I think the white paper was around 2008, 2009, and then people could actually mine it, I think, around 2009, 2010. Don't quote me on that. Yeah. But yeah, it took quite some time for the notion to catch on, and I think a lot of the early people just, I feel like there's always this, the people who are on like kind of the outskirts of society, if you will, who get it and they believe in it, and you don't need a huge community to tout for success. You need just a couple of really loud people, which it looks like you're trying to get right now as you start to build that traction with marketing and awareness, and let people know what the advantage is to going with Solarwind Token.
Yes, sir.
So if you could tell me a bit about the charitable side of Solarwind Token. You guys, I believe, are involved with, or at least in the roadmap, you're going to be looking at doing some charitable pieces of the business. Can you go into that?
Yeah. So essentially, what we're going to do is we're creating our own nonprofit called Positive Energy, and what we'll be doing there is just addressing issues in different communities worldwide, whether it's countries where they don't have a dependent grid and they keep on continuously having rolling blackouts, and we'll help fix their grid infrastructure or upgrade it. Whether it's a water issue, we'll create a reliable water sources, homelessness, hunger, pretty much any aspect that may be an issue for countries. We want to have our hands in as many different things as possible to help bring value all over the world. Because I believe it's everyone's duty, especially once we start being really, really successful with Solarwind Token, to give back into the world and to really make an impact.
That's great. So you're not a charity token, but you still have, a piece of the business that will still nevertheless help some charities and some causes. So
yes, sir. And essentially how that would work is we are using 5% of the project funds. So the installer gets 2.5% of that tax that we charge on every transaction to finance the solar installation. So 5% of that cost is what we'll be using to create kind of a liquidity pool to do these charitable acts. So it's not a significant amount right now since it's so small, since we aren't a charity token, but over time, as we grow more and more, that tiny portion will become a lot bigger in liquidity. So,
right, and every little bit ultimately does count. Any opportunity to help charities, help people, is a good one.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to hear a bit about your roadmap. I know ultimately the goal is to enable funding for people to get solar, also enabling at the same time your stakeholders, the coin holders, to gain some value from holding the coin. What does the roadmap look like as you look to, we're just entering Q3 2021,
yeah.
And then Q4 is right around the corner.
Yeah.
What do the next quarters look like? What does the next couple of years look like? And what ultimately is that vision for the next 5 to 10 years, if you even have that yet?
Yeah.
I know it's kind of hard to look that far out, but
Oh,
yeah, if you could share any of that, that'd be interesting to know.
So I would say at least Q2 ends here in about just like a few days, 1 week.
Yep.
Yeah. So our goals for now is to get our CoinMarketCap CoinGecko listing. Gives us more accountability. We've kind of checked off everything in Q2 for the most part. We have our tech rate audit. We've started marketing and all that. But coming in Q3, we'll start getting listed on more centralized exchanges. We've already completed our first application, so we actually should get listed in Q2.
So you touched a bit about liquidity pool. I think I'd like to know more about the tokenomics of Solarwind Token. What does that look like?
So the tokenomics essentially, we'll start with the total supply. We started off with the 1 billion token supply and burned 50%. So now we're at 500 million. We essentially have a tax on every single transaction, whether it's a buy, a sell, or a transfer from one wallet to another. It's a 10% tax. And from there, 5% goes towards reflections paid back to the holders. So holders, let's use a bank in USD as an example. Let's say you buy $100, or you want to deposit $100 into the bank, but the bank charges a 10% fee, so you deposit $90. How the reflections work and the 5% redistribution to the holders works is every time someone makes a deposit or withdrawal or transfers money from a savings account to a checking account, there's a fee that's applied, and 5% gets redistributed back to the people who are already banking there. So you deposit $90, and then the bank will continuously pay you more dollars for the longer you hold. So, and then the rest of the tokenomics, 2.5% gets put into a locked liquidity pool. We have it locked for 2 years, and then the other 2.5% gets put into the project fund. So to tack on to the tokenomics, I just wanted to add that our holders for long-term holding get to benefit in 4 different ways. The first one being the reflections that I touched upon a little bit earlier. The second one is since we are financing these projects, more money is going to get put back into the liquidity pool than was used to finance the project to begin with. So that adds a traditional aspect of investing where you invest your money, then you get to benefit indirectly through the liquidity pool as the interest accumulates. So the longer you hold, let's say the interest comes back at a 5% rate, then just by holding, if all else fails, you're third aspect is the solar industry as a whole is still so small. I believe it's only in the hundreds of billions compared to the multi-trillion-dollar energy sector. So there is a lot of growing to do. And as governments are transitioning or having pretty aggressive goals to go net zero in the future, along with cars transitioning from gas to electric, that's going to put a huge energy demand on the grid with everybody charging all at once. And if we can't meet that energy demand, then we're going to be heavily dependent on fossil fuels. So just that exponential growth in the solar industry or the renewable industry as a whole is a great way for people to take part in that growth, the exponential growth. And lastly, since we are targeting Bitcoin's energy issues, anything that's good for Bitcoin, in my opinion, is good for the overall crypto industry. If we can help Bitcoin transition into sustainable energies and impact the overall market, it won't just be good for Bitcoin, but Solarwind Token, this token, that token, and the other token. So
that's great. Yeah, a win-win for Solarwind Token and Bitcoin. You're helping the miners to go green. Definitely see that as a positive, especially when you hear Elon Musk, who we're taking Bitcoin. Oh wait, never mind. It's not green enough. We want you guys to be 50% more green before we go and get involved. So yeah, helping the overall, because right now the crypto industry, the crypto market is all following Bitcoin one way or another, although people are trying to divert or trying to prove otherwise. Right now it's follow Bitcoin and then see what the market brings down the line. And if Bitcoin's going green, then it's a big win. Yeah, Roy, I appreciate your time. Is there anything that you just want to close out with as we wrap up here?
Yes. So for everybody sitting on the sidelines who may not be into cryptocurrency, but want a way that believe that green energy is the way of the future and need a way to invest into it, Solarwind Token is the one for you. Solarwind Token is a long-term project, so if you plan on wanting to put your money somewhere where it'll really grow in the future and partake in the growth of the solar industry, then we're here for you. And anybody else who needs financing in the future, be prepared. We'll be able to help you go solar.
All right, guys. So we're just going to wrap up here. This is Marcus Henry closing out with Roy, and we are talking about Solarwind Token. He's helping to help everybody go green with solar energy and helping folks get financing, helping hodlers to gain some value. It is a long-term coin with a long-term vision. So, Roy, thanks for your time again, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.